Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm Dan.
And Alice.
And you're watching Plant Abundance on YouTube. So we are back out in the backyard food forest on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. We're getting ready to pull a bit of a harvest. We're going to go on a little picnic, Alice and I. And it's nice to be able to head out into the yard and harvest some fresh produce for your picnic. So what we're going to be harvesting today is some goji berries. We've been pulling harvests off of these bushes pretty much every day. I mean, we could be out here every day, but just check it out. Just loaded down with fruits everywhere you look. I'm surprised these berries are hanging towards the bottom here with the chickens running around. You know, we've got chickens eating from the bottom of these bushes. We got wild birds eating from the top constantly, and we're still getting an abundance of berries.
Easy to pull. That's why the bird loves it, because as soon as they pick this one and run right away.
This is my technique, look. I just kind of work my hand down the line, just kind of rubbing. See that? Yeah. And then, you know, the green ones are still on there.
It looks like your hand is like a machine. Far away, huh? I'm getting only the big one. Close up. Your harvester. And that one.
So in just a few minutes' time, we got another little bowl of goji berries.
This one is
so delicious. What do they taste like to you? I've had a lot of people comment and say that they taste like tomatoes.
Oh, my coworker, I'm faking them. I said, "Do you want a paper?" And then one of my coworker, they're scared. I said, "No, just try it. Is it hot?" And then they try it and said, "Oh, it's kind of paper. That there's no
kind of
hot." I said, "That is paper," and then I'll tell the truth.
To me, it doesn't taste anything like a tomato or a pepper. It tastes like a sweet berry. So I don't know what to tell folks who have a different taste profile than I do, but that's what it's like to me. They're quite delicious. And the great thing about this crop here is that it's a continual harvest. You can see here we've got all these little small green berries starting to develop. all throughout the shrub. So if you want to grow goji berries like this, I'm going to give you a few quick tips so that you can have success just based upon what I've tried and what's worked for us. Number one, plant your gojis in full sun. They really do want full sun, not part shade, just as much sun as they can get. Number two, build a little trellis system for them if you can. I've got a 4-foot little wire fence that's outlining the chicken run, and that's just helping to hold some of these plants up. You can see here I've got a bungee cord holding back some of this crop, because what the plant really wants to do is grow tall, get weighted down with berries, and droop over. So having a trellis system, I found a 4 to 5 foot fence or any sort of trellis material, whether it's a cattle panel or if you got some T-posts with some wire, anything to kind of just hold the main stalk of the plants up is going to be helpful. Number three, plant this crop towards the middle of your garden design. It has a tendency to send out runners. I've seen them come up as far as 10 feet away from the mother plant. So if you put them close to a fence line, they could run under your fence into a neighbor's yard. And you don't want to put that on someone who's not looking to grow gojis. So put them towards the middle of your design. It's very easy to pull up these runners, transplant them, grow new plants, put them in a pot. So it's actually a benefit. They're quite abundant. As long as you're not putting it next to a fence line, there should be no issue with that. Number four, these plants are drought tolerant, but they do like a good drink from time to time. So give them a good mulch, a nice heavy mulch around the base. That's something that I did differently this year. I did a nice heavy mulch that seemed to really help with the berry production. And also give them some water if you notice that the soil is getting really dry. And also keep in mind, you don't just want to water right at the base of the stalk of the plant, but rather get towards that drip line. So the drip line is going to be where the furthest branches are reaching from the base of the plant. So in most cases, you're going to be about 4 to 5 feet away from where the main stalk is at, or the main group of branches are coming up out of the ground, and water around that area so those feeder roots can get a drink from time to time. But you don't need to overwater. I haven't watered these plants in several weeks. We've been very hot, so but just keep that in mind. And number 5, it's helpful to give these plants a little bit of nutrients early in the season before they start producing berries up until flowering season. So if you want to give them some comfrey tea, if you want to make some homemade weed tea from the weeds growing in your garden, give them some added nutrients. Liquid kelp is also a very nice fertilizer to give them, and a little bit of fish emulsion as well early in the season is really good. Other than that, you just want to give it time. These plants here are 6 years old. They were first planted in 2014 as part of the understory in the back end of the food forest beneath some of the dwarf fruit trees. I found that these plants are just too aggressive of growers. They wanted more space to grow, so I actually dug them up, transplanted them over near this fence line here. So they've been in the ground here now for 5 years, and they all transplanted, took well, but give it time. You should see some berry production after just a year or two of them being in the ground. But after a few years, 5 years, you're going to start seeing an abundance of berries. So time is of the essence. The pruning is so important. If you prune these plants back, they have a tendency to push out a lot of new growth, and the berry production comes on that new first year's wood. So don't be afraid to prune these bushes back quite heavily. I would recommend leaving some taller branches so that you get a full scope of the plant. But if you want to learn more about a pruning technique that works, I've done a whole video showing you how to prune goji berries. But I will say this last year, because I was offering up a lot of this wood to folks who wanted it, I did a heavy pruning on these shrubs to the point where I was a little concerned that we might not even see a harvest this year. And to my amazement, we're getting just amazing crops of berries this year, more than in the previous years. So part of it has to do with the maturity of these bushes, and the other part of it is that it really does like a nice pruning. So prune these bushes back. And a final tip I'd have to offer you would be to try to grow these from a cutting or established plant rather than a seedling if you're looking for a specific type of goji. If you do plant these from seed, you may get something that is wonderful, but you may get something that's not quite as abundant in the way of producing your gojis. So you know for sure what you're getting if you plant a cutting from a mother plant of a goji that's highly productive. So that would be the best way to go about it. Or if you were to buy a nursery stock plant that has a specific name to it that's been a proven winner. So that's what I'd recommend as far as growing your gojis. But I'm a big fan of experimenting and planting seedlings. Sometimes that is where you're going to get the most amazing new variety that you've ever seen. So definitely don't be afraid to grow these out from seed, especially if you're on a budget. Just grow a bunch of them and give it some time, folks. Patience is virtue. Yummy, yummy, yummy.